Hello, my Facebook family. How is everybody doing today? Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, my whole Crystal Loves Texas family. Listen, we got another episode of Teachers at the Table because this primary season, we have a bumper crop of teachers at the table who are getting ready and prepping to go to Austin to kind of shake things up a little bit. In a word, okay? And today I've got two teachers with me. One of them you've seen before, and the other one you may have seen in other spaces before. But I wanted to bring him in here today because he too is a classroom teacher. And like I always tell you, you get the best decisions, you get the best outcomes, you get the best things are much more fair and aligned to me when there are teachers at the table.
And Crystal is making mention of this simply because I made a statement a couple of weeks ago that you don't remember when I
have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so I made a statement a couple of weeks ago saying that when I was interviewing her for her constituents, that people always say that lawyers make the best politicians, right? Most of the lawyers we have in the House, the Senate, in both Texas and United States, most of them are lawyers. So the question that came from that was, what can teachers bring to the table and I said I was going to stop saying politicians in 2026 and call public servants because that's what they are. What can public servants as educators bring to the table in the state and national house?
Okay, so let me go ahead and take this off. Savant, I'm going to get you to go ahead and tell me, please, introduce yourself and tell me a little bit of your background, a little bit of your history, and then tell us what you are running for and why you decided to run in that race.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be on this show. My name is Savant Moore. I always tell people the whole story. I was born to a mother that gave me up at 4 days old. I went to foster care, but lucky for me, I was adopted by a social studies teacher, football coach at Forest Brook, a math teacher at Smiley, Smiley, Forest Brook. We used to go against each other. And that mother became the first Black counselor at North Shore High School. My mom and dad really instilled in me education and faith. I ended up graduating at the age of 16 years old. At 17, I went to United States Army. I served 10 years. I was an airborne ranger, so served my country. And then I still wanted my children to see me graduate from college. So I went to Howard University and I graduated in 2016. I'm a history major, but then I went and learned how to code. When I became a software engineer, I started a cleaning business, grew it over 7 states. Then guess what happened? COVID. So I'm like, let me move back to home to Texas, be around my mother. I started a trucking company, grew that. But during that same time frame, my son, he says, hey, you need to go to a school board meeting. I go and I speak. So I always thank Trustee Kathy Bluford Daniels. She allowed me to speak. And we got a magnet program at 7 Black and brown schools. And then I ran for office and I ran and I won. Elected trustee. I represent all of Northeast Houston. And from there, I just started really getting involved in politics. I always tell people I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant. I've been everywhere from City Hall all the way to Austin. And now, of course, tonight, you're like, what is he running for now? I'm running for Texas Comptroller. Another thing is, obviously, all of us are teachers. I teach 6th grade English. Man, all day talking to 10 it's great today to be talking to y'all. I really like to thank Michelle Williams. She's one of those great teachers, great president. She's been an inspiration to me, helping me with classroom management, actually teaching these kids, where they can understand and be successful in life. So I appreciate her. I'm running for Texas Comptroller. One, that position is the chief financial officer of the whole state. We will be over school vouchers. I want to prove that this budget can fully fund public education. We
Yes.
would not need school vouchers if we were fully funding public ed. And I look at our numbers. We're 42nd in the nation as Texas for public education. But then you look at a Massachusetts as number one, and you see that they're spending per pupil $22,000, and you know what we're paying, $6,000, maybe less. We're not knowing. We're like lending on the vendors versus lending on the teachers. And that me being in this classroom, I see that we do not have the resources. Now, there are other things I'll be over. Texas Hub program to provide opportunities for state contracts over broadband so that we can have broadband access across the nation. I would like to audit every agency and many more other things. I will be over 3,000 employees. And so tonight we'll be talking about why you should be choosing teachers. And me being in the classroom, I'm seeing that the resources are not there. And we wonder why our children are not able to be on grade level or mastery of above because the current leadership is not putting our students first.
You know what, Savant? It's interesting that you should say that, because one of the things that I really kind of targeted in on, and it was something that I didn't realize until I got into the classroom, that it was actually a problem. I didn't realize that when many of our students go home, we take for granted as adults that there's internet service everywhere. Everyone's got Wi-Fi.
Right.
Some of our kids, many of our kids, when they leave home, they don't have Wi-Fi. They're trying to tether off of their phones. And, as a comptroller, would you have any say so in whether or not we could include programs that would include Wi-Fi, universal Wi-Fi, at least for students?
Yeah, one of my goals or part of my platform is within 2-mile radius of every school, there should be free Wi-Fi. I live in Fifth Ward. I know that I live in a broadband desert, but there's broadband deserts across the state, rural areas and urban. And we know that children aren't able to be learning at the speed that they would need to because they don't have that access. We get funds from the federal government, but this current leadership is not spending that money to provide that broadband. And so I hope that people elect me so that they can actually happen, because it benefits all, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent. This is about Texas children. Texas children need that Wi-Fi, and it goes beyond just the education, healthcare. So that you can use telehealth if you need, if you're 30 miles away from a hospital.
If you need, my mother has a pacemaker. We didn't even think about that until, she said, we got to get this internet turned back on, because we can't even get a signal if something weird starts happening with my pacemaker. The monitoring company couldn't even make an adjustment. But keep that in mind. Michelle Williams, another teacher at the table. She is a candidate for Texas House District 127. Michelle, can you tell us? And Michelle also has a lot of letters and accolades behind her name. But Michelle, first, can you tell us exactly what districts 127 encompasses? We know Savant is for the entire state, and we're trying to get that message out there for the entire state to put teachers at the table. But Michelle, for you, tell me exactly what 127 encompasses. What areas of Houston?
127, it has three. I'll do it in terms of school districts. It's part of Spring ISD.
Okay.
Humble, which includes Atascocita and Kingwood.
Okay.
Part of Humble is Harold Dutton's district. I'm more north Humble. Not closer towards the Beltway. That is 142.
Okay.
And also Huffman. So Huffman ISD, Spring ISD, and Humble ISD.
And Michelle, just to piggyback off of what we just talked about a couple of minutes ago in terms of that internet service and making sure that Wi-Fi is available, you are a math teacher. We know that, especially in something like math, kids need to be able to be connected. They need to be able to ask, not go on Chat GPT to get the answer, but they need to be able to ask questions and Google information and be able to find information real time. When the first student came back to me and said, Miss, I could not do this homework because I don't have internet at home. And only my mom has the cell phone and she was at work. So, I'm thinking, wait a minute, everybody is connected these days. That is not the case. We still have some kids, for lack of a better explanation, who are kind of living in the 90s as far as connectivity is concerned. And that certainly puts them at a deficit compared to all of their other peers.
Yeah, so first of all, it's diabolical that the state of Texas doesn't have it, and Louisiana figured it out long time ago. For
Stop right
people
there.
who don't
Stop.
know,
What do you mean Louisiana figured it out? They've got universal internet?
Yeah, they so I worked in East Baton Rouge Parish for 4 years.
Yeah.
Right after Hurricane Katrina, and all of their schools had open Wi-Fi for a 2-mile radius for their community. So if you had multiple schools, it would cover the neighborhood. But Texas, I even brought that to HISD when Granita Lathan was interim superintendent.
Right.
And their issue was, but they're going to get into it. I said, well, if they can do it in East Baton Rouge Parish, surely you can figure out a firewall that can separate the open Wi-Fi from the secure Wi-Fi.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous. And that was something that was normal because to give the children access. But it just shows you the priorities of the state of Texas and even Houston Independent School District, because it wasn't the community and it wasn't a concern about them being connected and not having internet deserts, because essentially that's what they were creating. And especially when Harvey came through, I was at Cashmere Gardens Elementary, and they thought our school was going to be basically demolished because Cashmere Gardens is one of the oldest structures in Houston ISD.
Wow.
But they were had they had open Wi-Fi, they wouldn't have had to allow the community to come into the school while the children were there. They could have sat in their cars in the comfort, because it was a rough time period even for myself. But those are some of the things that, when you don't bring people to the table that are actually in the trenches and dealing with the community, then you get what you always have, which is what we got now.
Well, I say this: if they ain't bothered to fix the grid since 1974, what is internet? I mean, we've been sitting here with rolling blackouts, and God forbid if we get another hard freeze, and the grid is still not fixed, and nobody seems to be concerned about the next freeze or the next big hurricane.
Savant, let me ask you this. Piggybacking off of what Rebecca just said, tell me a little bit about how the governor and the legislators work with the comptroller in terms of making sure, in terms of the preparedness, and that funds are allocated for the preparedness of the grid and our emergency systems in the event of an emergency. And we know Texas, just like we could get a hurricane in the summer, easily we could get a freeze in the winter or a flood. So, how do those two work in tandem, those two entities?
Well, I'm the one that come up with the budget. One issue with Texas is they're looking at the budget every 2 years, since the legislation meets every other year.
Yes.
I think that's a huge issue. Like you just stated, we have incidents all the time. We can't even look at things quarterly. We need to be looking at things monthly, because things are changing from time to time. One thing my platform is for, when it comes to disaster, we have the funds, let's pay it and fix the situation so that we can get reimbursed on the federal from the back end. But let's not have Texans be waiting for the funds to happen, just like we did a few months ago happen in the Hill Country. But we talking about redistricting and gerrymandering versus funding, fixing after a natural disaster. And so that's why this position, Texas Comptroller, is so important because it's an independent agency. So I don't have to listen to the governor or the legislature. I'm the person that certifies it. But we need people like me and Michelle in tandem. She's going to be in the legislation fighting for it. And I'll be showing, hey, this budget can work. Because one thing, yeah, and you as well, Crystal. But
That's
one
okay.
thing all three of us know, when we're in that classroom, all of Texas is in that classroom. So
Yes.
a child with a lot of money to a child with no money to language disparities and everything in between. So why should they be electing teachers? Because every day we're dealing with all of Texas in that
Yes.
classroom, from the vendor that wants us to just teach about testing versus teaching them how to learn. And that child needing the breakfast and lunch at the school, that child that didn't get rest at night, us fighting with the child that played Fortnite too much. There's just so much is going on. So it's like we're the perfect candidate to be running, to be public servants, because too long politics hasn't been serving the public.
Absolutely.
So one question I did want to ask, if you could open up the emergency fund, is it possible for you to open up the emergency fund?
The school funds that have been held so tightly.
So for the funds, I can prove through the budget that we can use it, but that's a decision that has to come from our legislators and our governor. So that's why it's so imperative for us to turn out and vote. Like, we complain a lot, but the voter turnout is so low. And then when you have great candidates like yourself and like Michelle Williams, go vote for them, because you keep getting the same bad person for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you don't know why.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, you know how Michelle is. Michelle knows how I am. And I'm glad to hear that you are a kindred spirit. Let me tell you why. Because we are not people who you can bridle. If it needs to be said, we're not afraid to say it.
Right.
We can't be worried about whose feelings it hurts. If it's the truth and it needs to be put out there, it needs to be put out there. The squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease. And sometimes when you don't have a listening ear among your colleagues in the legislature, you may need to squeak and squeak and squeak until the media picks up on it.
Right.
And then when the media picks up on it and the people start knowing what's going on, then you start to get some people listening to what you're saying. But what your concern cannot be is whether or not I'm going to step on anyone's toes or people's feelings are going to get hurt.
Correct.
Especially when it comes to kids in the classroom in Texas.
So I have another question. This is kind of a lightning question for all three of you all. Okay. So starting with Michelle. What do you see being the biggest, I don't want to say problem, but what do you see being the biggest, it is what it is. What is the biggest problem or the biggest disconnect, I should say, between Texas voters and the state legislature?
I think that there's this mindset shift that has not happened. Meaning that a lot of the voters tend to think that, oh, I voted for them and they're going to go to Austin or go to Congress and they're going to fix everything. Yeah. It does not work like that. Right. I think people don't understand democracy is an action verb, not a being verb. It's an action verb. And the checks and balances are the people. And the people have to pay attention to what's going on to check and balance the representative that you voted for. That's what it's called, check and balance. That is an action. So if they're not your mouthpiece, then what do? You vote them out. And there's still this idea that, oh, they're going to fix everything. That is my message to all of the constituents in House District 127. I'm not your shero. Right. I am your representative. We're going to Austin. I will be there physically, but you're going to be there. And when I need you all, we'll organize some people to come to Austin that can come there. And that's how it works, because they don't like to see us in Austin.
Right.
They don't. And I don't think people understand that. They don't like it. When we have lobby days for the union,
Right.
A lot of those people are unavailable intentionally.
Of
It's
course.
all the
Of
time.
course.
Yes. Yes. That's why me and Paul Bencourt's chief of staff, we got into it. We got me and one of the other union members got kicked out of his office. So, but they don't want to talk to you because
And
it's
Angela
easy.
Paxton didn't even come out of her office for
She
me and
didn't.
Crystal.
She didn't. We sat there on the bench, but we got to talk to Senator Miles. Yeah.
And it's disrespectful, and that's the problem, because you represent the people, and just much like the person that they voted in, he has the same mental block, talking about he don't need international law, his own morality. You have no morality, and neither do they in the Texas legislature, because if you did, you would not be disenfranchising children who are defenseless.
And you know what, Michelle? Let me say this. I've been studying up a lot on the tactics that that Dunn and Wilkes used, okay, in order to position the legislature and Texas politics the way that it is right now. And they targeted the long game, okay?
Absolutely.
They knew that this isn't something that they were going to be able to get across that goal in 3 years or 5 years or whatever. But one thing that made them so successful, which I think that most of the Democrats have an opportunity to do right now, is that they decided they were going to laser beam focus on one thing, and that was getting the Christian morals back into the class. They laser beam focused on that, okay? And they made sure that every one of the candidates that they supported did not waver off of any of their their points that they wanted to make in making that movement and turning that into a movement. But I think we have an opportunity here, because we've got a listening ear. Everybody in Texas now, especially Democrats, but there are many Republican people who stand with us as far as this is concerned. Public education is something that if you take that away, if that is taken away right now, every person fails. It fails. It's going to fail every system, regardless of the party. Public education, because here's the thing, there are more people without than there are with.
But I think
so people people depend on public education from all walks of life.
Well, some do, but here's the thing. There's a graphic I was doing, because I research. So whatever I put out, you can bank that there's some literature behind it.
Yeah.
And there's a graphic. There's a decline in the public school system of all of the Hispanic and white children.
Yeah.
But guess where the increase is? It's us. So when you talk about getting rid of the public school system, you're talking about not educating Black children. And that's what it boils down to. So you're going to get rid of the Latino kids because they're letting ICE do what ICE does. But as far as Black children, they're not educating. And I don't think Black parents really understand what's at stake. They don't want to educate their kids.
The ones that do understand, they have all but are starting to remove their children out. I've talked to
it's not gonna matter, because what's gonna happen is their kids are going to be ostracized and they're going to pull them out. I went to private school. I went to a white private school. I mean, you know, so at the end of the day, those children will not be accepted, because it's when you talk about the white nationalist movement,
right?
It's about separation.
Yes.
Black people need to come to terms with their Blackness. Your children are a part of a failing demographic. And
But Michelle, listen to me for 1 second, and I think that we're gonna be on accord on this. As far as the tactics that have been used, that have worked for that particular group, their tactic was to laser beam in on one thing and not have things all over the map.
No, they were all over the map. You have to understand, at the time they were targeting schools, they started
Yes.
the book bans. Then
Okay,
they
but
did,
see, it's all. This is my point. It was all focused in on wrapping everything in that Christian guise. That's what the book ban was about. That's what the abortion ban was about. Everything was coming into that particular thing. And what I think right now that we have an opportunity to do, since so many people are affected by education, so many people right now, and I mean black, white, brown, or whatever. I'm not talking about 10 years down the road, okay? Because the bottom line is, no, listen, the bottom line is every white and brown person is not going to be able to pull their kid out of public school in Texas within the next 10 years. It can't happen.
and
because
it's
the
not going to
numbers.
happen, but
Right.
it already has happened. That's what I'm telling you. The
That's what
decline of Caucasian children in the public school system is down in the state of Texas. Nationally, maybe not, but in the state of Texas, they are not there. Even in Humble ISD and Spring ISD, which is suburban Houston.
Well, not Spring anymore and not
Well,
Humble
no,
anymore.
we are still a suburb of Houston.
Okay.
And that's what I'm saying. House District 127,
Mhm.
we're 45% Caucasian, 23% Black, 22% Latino, and 6% Asian. We
Right.
are a diverse population. So what I'm telling you about the public school system, they're not here. Spring ISD is now 54% Latino.
Okay, Michelle. Now, well, let me ask you this, and Savant, please chime in on this. Are you saying that you do not believe at this point in time that there is a goal that the Democratic Party and our Democratic candidates and that the teachers can zero in on to unite everyone on that will help bring us over the finish line? Because it can't be all over the place. It can't be schools over here and LGBTQIA rights over here and something else over here. In order for us to come together and to be a block that can carry or that can change a trajectory, we're going to have to come together on some issue. And what I'm saying is that right now, I believe that the issue that we can come together on is education and the demise of public education in Texas.
But the problem with all of that is the Democrat, if I can just chime in, the Democratic Party is such a big tent party.
It is.
And I don't think people understand what that means. I'm a political science major, so I can kind of break it down. When you have a big tent party, you have one party that has the
Multiple.
different interests, right?
Yes.
So one interest will not necessarily affect one group. You have all of these different demographics, you have all of these different issues. So what may affect one, it may not affect another. I think the reason that the Republicans can come together and focus and get their message censored is simply because, one, they're a minority party for the most part. And when I say minority, I mean minority in number, because there's not a lot of Republicans. I don't know exactly what the exact figures are, but the Democrats, in terms of sheer numbers, far outweigh the Republican Party.
Okay.
So that's number one. Then number two, it's when you have a minority party, most of the time you have minority interests. So when you have a minority interest, it's easier to center around that minority interest. What is the minority issue?
Yes.
Christian nationalism.
That's not
Right?
not all Republicans see, and I knew you were going with that.
Wait,
I knew where you were going with that.
Let me
Go ahead.
finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
What I'm saying is and I'm not saying all of the Republicans agree on Christian
No.
nationalism, but what I am saying
It's
is
not so loud.
what you loud. What I am saying is that they're parts of Christian nationalism, that they're parts. I didn't say the whole segment. They're parts of Christian nationalism that even those moderate Republicans can get with. How do I know this? Because I'm seeing how they voting every other week in Congress.
I don't think they necessarily agree or getting with it, but they are just not breaking
What do
steps.
you mean? Your actions speak louder than words. Your actions say what your mouth is not saying.
So I got a question for you on that accord. I got a question for you. So what you're saying is that the Democratic Party, you don't believe, has the ability to come together on something enough to move as a block?
Here's what I
simpler than all of that.
Right. Okay, tell me.
The Republicans, what they've been doing is betting that Latinos and African Americans will not vote. It's not like it's not about Christian nationalism.
You're right.
We're not going to turn out.
Yeah.
So she is correct. We have various issues. So the Republicans are more exclusive. Democrats are more inclusive. What we need to get behind is actually be a village. Stop seeing me and say February 17th through the 27th, go vote in the primary. Regardless of what your issue is, go vote, because there's more of us than them. If we do that, we win. We can't complicate it. Just go vote. Make sure you register by February 2nd, because they're trying to make sure we don't even have registration. Trump
you saw what Abbott did today.
Yeah, they're getting all of our data, so we need to actually go and vote.
Yeah,
and we have to. I think it's as simple as going old school. Our elders voted. Why aren't we going to vote?
And just because we've been comfortable.
Well, I'm not comfortable anymore. So
I'm not comfortable either.
I'm running.
Yes, I'm not comfortable either. I'm real uncomfortable, Savant. I'm really, really uncomfortable. But I know if I'm uncomfortable, let me tell you this, and Michelle, you may have seen the same thing. Savant, you may not have seen it yet, but you will probably see it. One of my best students in my class, in my last period class, I hadn't seen this student in about a month. And I said, has anybody seen Larry? We're going to call him Larry. And one of the other students said, now this is a student who always aced every test. This is a student who always was able to answer any question. My best reader in the class, who was always able to perform at the very pinnacle of what everyone else was doing. Okay. I said, has anybody talked to Larry? Has anybody seen him? And another kid raised their hand and they said, yes, Miss Dillard. His mom is not letting him come to school anymore because she feels that ICE is going to come into the school and take him away, and they'll be separated. So for whatever the laws are or whatever, these people are terrified. They're terrified. They don't know if ICE is going to do what they said they were going to do or flip the script. So here's a student who hasn't been to school since November, who's not coming to school anymore, who was one of my stellar students. We got an issue, so that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but can I say one more thing, Michelle? To answer, we need more Michelles to run. The people that don't want to be politicians but actually come to the podium and serve the community, that's the real key. Like, people need to be signing up to go run for office. Yeah. Because a lot of times they've been winning unopposed in our state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's been in your race specifically, Michelle. I think that's how he been getting over.
Yeah, he ran unopposed the first time. And then, like, even now, he's not even campaigning. He thinks the Republicans are going to hand him a W. And I was like, dude, you better call Mike Miles. Call him. Because he can tell you about me. Yeah.
And you know they know each other.
So call them and ask them about me. And I like I told Henny from the AFL-CIO, I told him, like, I'm people with a pork chop, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm very competitive, and he's gonna look up and he's gonna find out that, oh, I'm behind in the numbers. Like, I'm not going to. I've already started getting out in the morning before home jail and going to the drop-off lines at the schools.
Yeah.
And but you know, they have been very comfortable. And that's how I ended up in
Yeah.
this race, because that was one of the compelling arguments from Dawn Richardson, who's a retired teacher. She was like, we can't let them stay comfortable. I said, you know what, you got a point. So that's when the thing that actually compelled me. I'm not a politician. I don't care
I'm not
what.
either.
I want, like
Not
they
either.
say, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on television.
yeah.
So, Savon,
Well-
I wanted to ask you kind of the same question. What do you think the disconnect, in your opinion, between the Texas voters and the legislature? What do you think is the disconnect between the two?
Savant, before you answer that, I'm going to throw this out there because this really connects to what Rebecca is asking you. In our district, Rebecca, the last time, well, this time now, we've got better data this time, but we've got 90,000 people who are registered voters in this district, in District 131. But less than 10,000 showed up at the polls the last time. What's the disconnect? What is that saying about how they're feeling about our politicians?
I'm really, I guess because I'm teaching 10-year-olds, I think it's even more simpler than that. Our party does a bad job of collaborating with one another.
Yes.
We're showing an example right now what it will take for us to win. We have to collaborate together.
Yes.
Then people like Stevie said, people like you,
Yes.
we have to collaborate with you to get the information to those voters so that they can know via social media, Facebook, via text message, in your community, in your sororities, fraternities, at your churches. We have to tell them when the dates are. You know, the only dates they worry about is when are the housewives coming on. So they got
when is my braider available?
Right. They have to know the actual date of when the election is. And there's a lot of, you got to think it's fatigue. There was a runoff. We got another runoff this month. Then it's our primary. Then it might be another runoff. So we got to keep telling people. And oftentimes it's like, I look at it like our family members, right? You got that one strong family member that everybody depends on. And they keep leaning on. And oftentimes we get tired because we tired of them leaning on us. So let's teach everybody, hey, go use your voter registration card and go vote. Let's collaborate so we can see the change in our community, in our district, and in our state. So it's collaboration and sharing of information all together. And then us that are already been involved, we got to encourage each other. Be positive. Say, do not give up the fight. Look how far we came, especially Black folks. We done came a long way. And so I'm proud of y'all. Y'all inspire me. Like if I didn't know Crystal and Michelle, I'm not going to be running. It's inspiration seeing y'all to step out, learning from my elders when it comes to being a better teacher. It's going to help me be a better public servant. So that would be my answer.
You know what? In our campaign meeting Tuesday, one of the members said this. She said, there is a guy that the Republicans are calling the Republican Stacey Abrams. And what he's doing, and I'm not sure what state this is, but he is going out and he is rallying voters in his state. And he's not going, his target are the 17-year-olds, the ones who are getting ready to turn 18. But he's not going to them. He's going to their parents. And he's saying, if you've got a 17-year-old in your house that's getting ready to graduate, you need to go and get that voter registration information. You need to sit there while they fill it out, and you need to take it down to the post office and turn it in. And that way, you know that they're registered. And then when it's time, just like you tell them they can't take the car without doing this or that. They can't do this on election day without going to vote first. That's how he's ensuring that next generation in his party is going to be there and doing that. And this is one thing that kind of, I will say this too. I don't know about Michelle. I'm not sure about you, Savant, but for the last 5 years, I've been a volunteer deputy registrar. Okay. So when it's not election time, I'm going to churches, I'm going to beauty salons, barbershops, all those places and registering voters. Because every little, and especially ones, and Rebecca and I and Candace Joseph, we have really targeted in on many of those people who are returning citizens who don't even know that when
have
they
the right to vote.
that they will have their right to vote restored when they are what they call off paper, when they finish the requirements of their probation and parole. Automatically, your voting rights are restored then. Felon or not, automatically your voting rights are restored when you have finished the terms of your commitment. Texas is not trying to tell people that, because what do the vast majority of people look like who are incarcerated?
They look like us. I'm there every weekend.
That's my point. Okay,
and I register voters as well. And
yes.
my little technique's a little different. I go to the rural counties because a lot of Black folks are missed out in those rural counties. But I'm making sure I register. So it's important. We got to. But then we got to make sure that they go actually vote.
That's right.
And that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been the Democrats, I'm sorry. I think that's been the Democrats' greatest flaw. And I just figured that out this year. Yeah, it took me a little while to process that, but I figured it out. It's not the registering to vote, because if that's the problem, if that's the case, I mean, Democrats have been registering people left and right for the last 20 years. The problem is the showing up to vote. We can't just register people and be like, oh, okay, now we got you. Now you're registered to vote, and then go expect them to go vote. Because a lot of these people don't know what they're voting for. They don't know who they're voting for. They're listening to people like, I know one friend of mine told me, well, my mama told me to go vote for this person because she's been knowing them forever. And I was like, girl, don't you put that Negro name on your ballot. And then I had to explain to her why this person wasn't the best choice. But she said, well, my mama said she had been voting for him for years, so that's who I need to go vote for. A lot of these people are lacking a lot of information.
They are. And you know, it's things like us. What I want people to know, and I'm so glad that you all agree with me on this, and we're all, you know, of the same thought on this. The other party is working with a lot of money, okay? Yeah. But I want to take a playbook from when Obama ran in 2008, and that is, you exploit social media till you can't exploit it anymore, and get people to share and share and share and share, and you hit your people in any way that you can. If you don't have the dollars, use what you have. And that is going to be the key for us being able to at least hit the majority of the people that we need to hit. Everybody has got some kind of social media account. Everybody's got a TikTok. Everybody has got a Instagram. Everybody, even if you don't have an account, most people go on YouTube for anything. I go on there to figure out how to clean pet stains off a carpet. You know what I mean? So people go on there. People have access to this. We need to be going to where the people are. And I'm so glad that we're doing things like this. Like I told Savant today, I said, Savant, let me tell you, we're probably not going to see those numbers hit until 2 or 3 days later. But, you know, this is shared to 52 different Democratic groups in Texas and in the Houston area. So, you know, and every time I post, I ask them to please share this, because that's where we're going to get our traction from.
Yeah, and then we're not having 50-50 conversations. So that's probably another reason why viewership is down. So, and if y'all know what I'm talking about, relationships and the gender wars and stuff like that, because you will have 103,000 views with that kind of stuff. But so Crystal, my next question is same question to you. What do you feel like the disconnect is between Texas voters and the legislature?
I can only speak about in my particular district that I'm running in. That's the only thing I can speak about, because, you know, that's where I grew up. That's where I live in currently. And that's been my life experience. And I can say this, people, Michelle, Savant, I don't know if you all would agree with this, but when people are comfortable, a lot of times comfort breeds apathy. You know, when you're comfortable, it seems like everything is going great. A lot of people don't take the time. Oh, was yesterday voting day? Election day, I forgot, you know. But when you start to feel the pinch yourself because of something that is happening or a law that was made or because something that affects you now or because you don't have any insurance anymore because or you can't afford it. It went from $55 a month to $1,500 a month. That's a pinch, and that's a pinch that everybody feels. So with that in mind, I think that people are going to be motivated by what hurts and what they feel and what touches them personally. And sometimes it doesn't even have to do with the particular politician or the person running. It just has to do with the collective climate at that particular time. But that's the way we think as Democrats. Republicans don't think like that. Every election, they're there. The little kids are taught to be there every election.
But I don't know if that's true. I think the voting is down in the Republican, well, at least in District 127, it's down, period, because we don't have quality candidates. And I think that has been part of the Democratic Party's issue. They have candidates. I was voting Libertarian until the last election cycle. I'm telling you, like,
Democrat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't have any Democratic candidates.
You mean not on the ballot?
No,
she's not saying that. I think what the difference is, it just happened last year. Now we have candidates that got you excited. That's why we had something different. Virginia, New Jersey, and now we're about to have a blue wave in Texas because we got Jasmine Crockett running, James Talarico, got Michelle Williams, we got Crystal Dillier, we got Savant Moore because Texas deserves more of a comptroller. We have some exciting candidates that are going to get people energized because you got to give people hope again. And then you have to have an evidence from your past that you showed up for people when you didn't have no title. And these Democrats doing that.
Thank you. And that's the thing. That's why, Rebecca told me something, and I'll always be indebted to her for this. I ran in 2022, okay? And we didn't know anything about anything, but we ran a good campaign. It was fun, but we learned a lot.
Yeah.
And my cousin down in Beaumont, who's been a political strategist for the last 50 years, he said, and Rebecca said the same thing. They said, Crystal, keep your podcast. Keep it. Because what you're doing is making sure that information is shared out there with the people that's going to help the people to thrive in their communities. You don't have a title, but keep that podcast because you are opening doors. You are spreading information, disseminating it. You are bringing people on who have services that people may be able to utilize that they didn't know about before. That's what you need to do. And regardless of whether or not you have a title, you need to make sure that you are allowing people in your district, in Houston, and wherever they are, to be able to make the connections that they need.
All right.
Michelle, let me ask you this. What are some of the concerns in your district that your constituents have in District 127? What are some of the major concerns that they have as a district?
Yeah.
So on the parent side, naturally, it's public education, but on the everyday Texan that doesn't have any children in the public school system, it's flooding.
Yeah.
That's really an issue out here because the developers are basically buying this land that are in floodplains, and Kingwood, I mean, I can't blame them. They were taken by surprise with the release from the dam by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
So that issue is more prevalent on that side west of 59.
Okay.
Ours on this side, east of 59, is the development and these detention ponds that we have all over the place because the concrete is coming. 1960, I've been out here for over 23 years, and 1960 is a mess. It's full of concrete. They're knocking down trees. And what they don't understand, because I like science and I understand numbers, when you cut trees, you're increasing the runoff into Cypress Creek, which runs out here. And the water flows downward. So if we're flooding up here, guess who else is flooding? You all.
And Michelle, it's funny because I remember when you were on my podcast a few weeks ago, and this is a true story. I told Michelle because I was looking at a house out in the area that she represents. And I was so excited about the house. I took my sister out there. I took my mother out there one week. And then that week, after that, what was the last hurricane? Harvey? Was it Harvey, y'all?
Beryl.
Well, before Beryl, it was the big one. It was Harvey. No, it was Harvey.
Katrina.
Harvey.
Harvey.
It was Harvey. After Harvey, I was watching the news and I saw the news boat because everybody was on a boat. The news boat pulled up and went past the house that I was looking at. And the water was up to the window on the second floor. And I couldn't even say anything. I was just pointing at it to my sister. I said, Kim, that's the house. That's the house that I wanted to buy. I couldn't believe it. And when we were going into the neighborhood, Michelle, I wasn't connecting the dots. Okay. I'm not a math major, so I wasn't connecting the dots. That when we were going down into the neighborhood to look, it was beautiful because it was going down into a nice little, what do you call it, a ravine, and it was grassy and beautiful, but we were going down like that. And that next week, that water came up out of that bayou or that creek, and it was all the way up at least 20 feet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like my neighborhood is an older neighborhood, 70s. And the people had sense. And the reason why they didn't develop the land that flooded during Harvey is because they knew that the water would rise out of the creek. And it takes some time, especially where my house is,
right,
for that creek to rise where we are, where the houses are actually built. But you have these developers that came in and developed that land closer to the creek. And guess where it flooded? Down there. All those houses down there flooded. And it's on low-lying land, and you can't tell people. The people are they don't, buyers. It took me a long time to buy a house, months. Yeah. I read everything. I looked at everything, and you have to be careful. And the article that the Chronicle put out there, since Hurricane Harvey, 65,000 houses have intentionally been built in floodplains.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, they don't care. And then you have a governor who says, we care about Texans. No, you don't, because these people are, you're creating a state that's about to be uninsurable.
Right.
Because actuaries assess risk.
That's right.
And Texas is becoming a huge red risk.
Right.
That's what's taking place. And that's the problem we're having out here. And, I would like for the Harris County judge, because they deal with the flooding and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I would like for them to talk more about that, because we've been shafted when it comes to infrastructure and flood mitigation. We're not getting it, but here's the thing. Texas has all the research and everything. You can go look at it. They'll tell you about the
resources. Resources. And Texas has the resources. But the legislature and the governor, they decide. Like Savant said, he can make the recommendations, but they decide where that money is going to be allocated. So, Savant, with that in mind, if you were elected the next controller, how would you work hand in hand with our municipal government here in Houston to make sure that Houston is able to get the things that they need? Because there's some things right now that are in court and funds that were allocated after Harvey that are being tied up and not, flood funds that are not being disseminated like they should.
And let me say this before he answers that. Not just Houston, but in Texas, because I know Dallas has their issues. El Paso has their issues.
Yeah.
We are in, we have five different coastal, we have 5 different areas. So how would you geographic areas, that's what I'm trying to say, Texas has 5 different geographic areas.
Right.
So how could you work with local governments of those areas to get what those areas need for disasters?
Right.
All right. One thing I want to say before I answer that question, tonight is proving why you should vote for educators to be in these offices, because we're proud nerds. We do the research, and then we know how to break it down so that the average voter can understand what our job entails, what we're supposed to be doing, and then we actually do it. Now, that to answer your question, you're correct. So as I'm going across the state, I'm going everywhere. So a West Texas issue is different. They may have boiling water and need a few $1 million to fix their pipes, so they don't have to do boiling water notices no more and have clean resources. What has to be done in my office is, when the funding is approved by a legislator and the governor signs it, I need to disperse that money as quickly as possible. Stop holding it.
Okay. Yeah.
Is getting held, and then we're getting these issues from the city level, the county level.
Yes.
It needs to go out. And so that has to be more efficient. Another thing that I want to do as a public servant, oftentimes we run around the state trying to get people votes. I'm going to continue to run around the state after I'm elected. So it's not after I'm elected, because I know everyone can't come to me in Austin. So I have regional offices. I will be collaborating with that city controller. I will be collaborating with that commissioner and say, hey, when you need this funding, do you have this issue, so we can get it out, and making sure, I don't think people know this, but I will be overseeing 3,000 employees. And so I will be making sure that my employees do their job. And the last thing that, to answer your question, is something I learned in the Army is trust and verify. And for decades, we've been trusting the Republican Party to not verifying. Now, when you vote for me and I'm in office, I'm going to audit every agency so we can know the numbers, so we can verify and make sure that they do right by you.
Well, you know what? I think it's one thing that we have to continue to look at, and we have no one to point the finger at but our current legislature and our governor for this. And that is, when that money, just like you said, when you were allocated the money, go ahead and get that money disseminated. Because when that money is held and held and held for whatever the reason that they're giving or whatever excuse that they're giving, that makes those problems exacerbate themselves.
And let me make this one more statement. Governor Abbott, you are our governor. It shouldn't matter if Republican or Democrat. Just because Harris County, Dallas County is blue, those are your constituents. Disperse the money. But that's the conversation we got to have as well. People hold on to their partisan when it should be nonpartisan when it comes to constituent. You run the whole state. It shouldn't be you just serving one population. It should be the whole population. And that's what's been happening. Because we vote blue, because we choose to be inclusive and think of everyone. We live in the most diverse city. Us as teachers, we see the diversity in our community, in our classroom. And so our thought process, the way that we live and we move, is different.
It is.
And on that note, and I was telling Crystal that when I'm so sick of our governor saying in ads and everywhere else that he believes his mouth should be open at, well, Texas needs to be fixed, and we got to fix Texas, and we got to get Texas on the right. Sir, I'm 42 years old. The Republicans have been in office
30
for at least 38 of those 42 years.
Right.
If Texas has gone off the grid, it is clearly y'all fault. You don't have nobody to blame. So I don't understand why they keep going on all these different news outlets and screaming with a bullhorn that Texas needs to be fixed when you clearly broke it and you're clearly the problem. That's what
but that is a very simple but important point that Democrats don't say enough. That should be the number one talking point. And it's mine, because I said 27 years. You all have been probably in control of education. I gave them a couple of years because the state, the lower chamber was not always Republican controlled. So I'll say 27 years. you all have had public education and you have driven it into the ground.
Yep.
And we need to say that more often.
Right.
And that is a talking point that the Democrats, real simple. The Republicans have been in office. You all have done this. It hasn't been us.
Right.
So,
and this is where we are.
Yeah. And you need to do something different. And, you know, about the property tax, like with him saying, oh, we need to get rid of property taxes. Sir, ma'am, we teach how a city is funded in 4th and 5th grade. Ma'am,
that's
sir.
right.
And I expound on it in 7.
and Rebecca talked about that last week on here. And Michelle, again, that is, he's speaking in code. But what we need to do is go ahead and decode that message, because the message is saying, get rid of property taxes and get rid of public schools.
And that's what I've been trying to get property owners to understand. Look, I get it. Property taxes are through the roof and it's eating in the salaries and everything else.
Right.
I get it. But he is not. And when I say he, I said the holy grail of failure, because that's what I call Abbott, Paxton, and Patrick. Okay. They are not getting rid of property taxes to make your lives easier. They're getting rid of property taxes so they can have full control of public education, simply because public education is split down the middle. It's the state and it's taxpayers. That's why
and it's a national level.
Right.
Yes.
This is why parents can go into schools and sit and see what's going on, because the money that you get from property taxes, the money that you pay from property taxes are going into those schools.
Right.
So you are a state. That's what makes you a stakeholder. That's
right.
What makes you have an invested interest. And this is why they can't stop you from going into schools, Mike Miles. I'm sorry. It just
okay. Yeah. With that in mind, Rebecca and Michelle, I want you to speak to that for just a second. But people may not know this. In Houston ISD right now, if a parent comes down and they say that they want to sit and have lunch with their child, can they do it?
Yes, they're supposed to be able to do it. But you know what?
Can they come and sit in your classroom and be in with your lesson with their child?
They can. It can't be all day, but they are supposed to be able to.
I didn't say that. They're supposed to be able to do it, but I've heard several people, even on the teacher group, say that the parents in their schools have been denied that.
First of all, let's be clear. And I tell people about rights, and knowing your rights does not help you.
That's right.
But invoking your rights, you see how it looks and sounds different.
Yeah.
That's an action.
Mm-hmm.
I invoke my right.
Right.
And I demand that this happen, and you take the necessary steps. People have a problem with putting their name on paperwork. I don't have no problem. These little fingers, they get to going all the time.
Right.
And I don't understand this day and age. Well, I'm just not going to put my name. I wish I ain't going to say it. I wish they would mess with my son while he was in school. Because I told them, I said, let me tell y'all something. I'm a hell raiser. My son came home in 4th grade with mom. They won't let me sit down they won't do what?
Right.
I waited at the bus stop with him. I did, ma'am, sir. I'm his mother.
Right.
And I have no problems after that. But my thing is, if you're not fighting for your kids, well, who are you fighting for? Because I don't understand. Because you can't mess with my grandson, can't mess with my son, don't mess with nobody that's related to me, nobody I like, somebody I respect. None of them people. A, B, C, D,
that's right.
E, F, and G.
Savant, if you can leave us with one last thought as to why people need to show up in February, sorry, the 17th, Rebecca, and on March the 3rd, early voting starting the 17th, and on March the 3rd, March the 2nd. Okay. Why would you, what did I say, 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay. Why should people show up and cast their vote for Savant Moore for comptroller?
You need to vote for Savant Moore because Savant Moore is genuine. Like, for too often, I'm 40 years old and I'm seeing a lot of politicians. They used to be genuine, but somewhere down the line it went away. And to me, I'm advocating for everybody. I don't care who you are. I just want all of Texas to be done right by. If someone elected you to do your job, then do your job. If this isn't a job for you, then go back home, retire.
That's right.
Allow us to grab the baton. This is a young person that's excited about this, that cares about you. I'm in my F-150. I've been all over Texas. 176,000 miles on this.
Yes.
You gonna need a new truck.
Yes.
I care about you. And I hope that February 17th through the 27th, especially my Black voters, this is Black History, go vote for me. But all voters, Democrats, this primary is so important. Let's make history together, and so we can be the change. Because I'm gonna do my part. I want to prove that minimum wage can get increased, because we can talk about that. And I want to prove that public education can be properly funded. The union, every legislation gives us the numbers that we should go up. And all our future congresswomen, state reps right now, they will vote for it and say, because they know as educators how important it is. So please go to savantmoore.com to know my priorities, but I need your vote.
And I want you to look around, Michelle. I want you to do the same thing in a second. But people, just look around you. I want you to see if you know anyone who's graduated from high school within the last 30 years, that just about 30 years since the Republicans have been in control there in Austin, and see the quality of people who have come out. We have educators like Michelle, like myself. Well, I'm a little more than 30 years, but that's okay. But we have educators like Savant, Rebecca, Michelle, who've come out, who have gone into the workplace, who have gone into industry, who have gone into technology, and have really shown what the product of public education can be. Not Michelle, maybe, but Savant, are you a product of public education?
North Shore High School.
There you go. There you go. So we're saying,
don't be hating on me.
Huh?
Don't be hating on me, because my
She
mom
went to private school.
I went to private school too. I went to a girls' school, but that's okay. I've always taught. I've always taught in public school. But my point is this: there is excellence right here, right there, right there. You're looking at it. If you're looking at your kids on each side of you, and they are public school graduates, and they've gone on to make you proud, there are good things. There are important things. There are precious elements that come from public school education. We cannot afford to lose it on any level. So that's why we need to, and if we've been doing it with somebody holding the purse strings and drawing the money back year after year, giving us less money, and when there are more kids to educate, and we've still made it happen like that, what would happen if we actually had the allocations that we needed? What could happen? You got to ask yourself that. Michelle, why should people go to early voting in February from the 17th to the 27th, and then on March 2nd?
You all to come out in the primaries to let us know that you all are Democrats and you're voting for change in 2026.
Right.
We need you all to show up at the polls, because we have candidates in every race. There is someone for you to vote for.
Yes,
we can clap that up, though.
We need you all to exercise that muscle for March, and then keep exercising that muscle for the general election in November. But more importantly, our lives are depending on this election, and voting is action, and they are going to make it difficult. Nobody has ever made anything difficult that they didn't want.
It wasn't precious. That's right.
And people say, well, my vote doesn't count. They don't make it hard for you to vote
if it didn't,
because it doesn't count, because it does count. They say when Black people get out and vote, things change. Look at Virginia. Virginia. And they said it. They said the Black voters vote made that happen.
That's right.
They made it happen in Georgia.
Yes.
So we are a powerful voting bloc. And to my Latino constituents and brothers and sisters in the struggle, because we all down here at the BOTTOM bottom.
That's right.
And we need for you all to vote on the right side this time for your own children. And I'm
Right.
telling you, I'm on, and people don't know this. I'm on a second termination for standing up for English language learners. Those
Yes.
are Latino children. I ain't had no
Right.
Black kids in there.
Yeah.
Those were Latino kids. They do not want to educate your children.
Yes.
My parents with special education children, those
Yes.
complaints for you, because
Right.
what they're trying to do is to take these kids and put them back in institutions
That's right.
and lock the doors on them. They are trying to go backwards. IDEA was enacted to set those children free and to be a part of our society. And they don't think that they are worth it, but I continue to fight for them. And those are the reasons that you need to come out and vote. Fight for
Yes.
your children, your grandchildren, your neighbors' kids, my dog Cuddles,
Yes.
and all of them. So you need to come out because this is going to be historical, and you all need to be a part of history because
Yes. On the right
the
side of history, Michelle.
yes,
On the right
because
side.
the Bible says we're going to be the head and not the tail. So the time is coming. It's coming.
That's absolutely right. And guys, let me just say this for wherever you stand in the aisle or on whichever side of the aisle, you have to, at some point you have to come to terms with the fact of the things that actually come out of our president's mouth. And trust me on this, our governor is basically following in lockstep with what the president says. I don't even think he believes some of this, but he's going to follow in lockstep. When you hear things come out of the president's mouth, like if someone is disabled, just let them go home and allow them to die.
Hey,
Right. When you hear people say this kind of thing, then you need to really, really pay attention to that. And Rebecca, I'm gonna let you have the last word.
Well, I'm gonna say this. Let me just say this real quick, and then I'll say the last word.
Mhm.
When Carolyn Lovett,
Mhm.
she irks me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead and say it.
When Carolyn Lovett got on national TV and said, if you want better health care, stop eating out at Pizza Hut and McDonald's, and you'll have better health care.
what that got to do with that?
Yeah. So
So these are the people that are
Making decisions for your life.
decisions for your lives. She said literally out of her own mouth, I wish we stopped talking about healthcare. If people stop eating at Pizza Hut and McDonald's, then they would have better healthcare. Does that
tell that to the breast cancer survivor or warrior or the prostate cancer warrior?
Right.
So does that
Absolutely
sound like
not.
somebody who
Look, he
cares?
said Trump
anything?
eats it every day.
Right.
Does that sound like anybody that cares for you or about your situation or what you're going through? That's one thing I wanted to say. But to close it out,
Yeah.
I want to say that first of all, I personally endorse all three of these candidates. They
you,
have
Rebecca.
stepped up in my life personally. Okay. Michelle mentored me as a first-year charter school teacher.
Uh-huh.
And then she went from doing that to being by my side when I was going through my termination at HISD.
Mhm.
And that's a long story. We'll talk about that a different day.
Mhm.
Savant was right there in my hearing, speaking up for me, comforting me, making sure I'm good. And Lord knows Crystal has been by my side since we met since we were first year teachers at the same school. So these people
Not a first year teacher, but it was the first year I was there with you.
with me.
And she didn't
Yeah.
want to take the certification test. I had to twist her arm and make her go take it.
I did it because I was like, Crystal, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But these people not only walk the walk, but they talk the talk. They not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk. These people are who they say they are. But I did have a question for y'all. This is my last one. I know
we got to close out. Yeah.
My last
And we can
one.
bring them back.
We can bring them back.
Okay.
Okay. Dang, this was a good one too. We'll come
Hurry
back.
up, hurry up.
But can y'all just promise us when y'all all three get into office, because I believe all three of y'all will be there. Please do not let the powers that be you know, the power, the prestige of the offices
Taint our perspective.
taint
Yes.
y'all perspective. Servant talked about that, and I think that's what the problem is. These people get in the office, and I believe a lot of them do believe what they say they gonna do, but then they get in office and they start governing, and then it's like, well, you know, it's all about galas and brunches and conferences
And social media posts.
right.
So Michelle and Savant, we gotta support her here. Thank you. And Rebecca has been priceless. But guys, we will bring you back. Michelle and I talked about something on the way up here to the podcast when I was on the way up here. And I think that we're gonna go ahead and make that happen. Michelle, what we were talking about. You remember what we're talking about? Yes. And we'll get with Savant after we close to make sure he's on board. But guys, I want to thank you all so much. Guys, these are the conversations that happen, and communities rise when there are teachers at the table. Michelle
We're block
Williams.
walking tomorrow.
Well, Michelle Williams and Savant Moore, I want to thank you so much for being here. And Rebecca, as we always say, we can do it. See you later.